Go ahead.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Sports Blitz. This is episode number 44, the most special episode that we will ever have. If you're under a rock right now, please come out, because I know we've been in quarantine for a long time. Come out, welcome. If you don't want to come out, that's okay. You know, it's no problem. If you're in a cave, stay where you are.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. But I'm Doug. We have Robbie. Robbie, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. You know, glad to be here. Very excited for this episode, and just definitely these episodes always sort of provide a little bit of light in what's going on out there. So no, very happy to be here as always. Good to see you as always.
Absolutely, and we have a very special guest that we're having on our show tonight, and we are so appreciative to have. I guess my old cohort from Old Rivers Day Camp, and the head coach of the Babson hockey team. We got Jamie Rice here. Jamie, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I hope everyone is safe and healthy out there in day 3,970 whatever we are in quarantine now. And I don't know if it's Wednesday, Lunar Sunday, or where we're at, but I'm doing great, and I appreciate you having me on tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. We totally appreciate not having to talk to ourselves which is really great.
I think with the social distancing, we've all talked to ourselves enough the last 3 months.
Exactly. It's been really crazy. I mean, what are you supposed to do? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I walk around the house going, what do I do here? So I totally get it. So what we wanted to start with is, first of all, I want to ask you, what should we call you? Should we call you Jamie? Should we call you Coach?
I've been called a lot worse, so there's probably not too many things you couldn't go with.
Yeah,
Jamie's fine, I hope. Yeah.
Jamie, okay, all right, that's fine. I just want to be respectful, so I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
It's more respect than I normally get. So
right, I know that's okay. That's all right. That's all right. I remember those Rivers days, so that's all right. So it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So I just wanted to kind of start off, first with I already put this out there that kind of on Facebook that you were going to be on, and there is a few people, including my brother, who spent some time there too, and a few other people that are really, really interested in us talking about Rivers a little bit, and just kind of delving into a few of the really cool stories. I did tell a story not last time we were on, but I think it was the time before, episode or so, that I think that we talked about Rivers a little bit. Robbie and I can relate because Robbie was there.
Yeah.
So I wanted to first ask you, when did you, and I know I just asked you this before in kind of pregame, but wanted to kind of ask you, when did you first start there, and what was your experience like there?
Yeah, so I was 8 years old, and I was at Camp Algonquin, which, if you remember, used to be across the pond to the left, and now it's a development of McMansions, where probably everybody who is somebody in Greater Boston making money is living there now. But I was at Camp Algonquin, and it was a much smaller camp. And at that point, it was probably 77. It was maybe 76, 8, 9 years old. They had started to kind of lose their grip a little bit. Obviously, the Rivers camp was really growing, and it had become a bigger piece. And I just remember saying to my mom one day coming home, I said, I think we could try that Rivers camp. And so I went the first year. I was a Blackfoot. That was my first tribe I was in. So I was probably 9. And I went for 2 weeks. And back in the day, if you remember, there was kind of 2-weekers, 4-weekers, and 8-weekers. And
yes.
At the end of 2 weeks, they used to say, if anybody wants to stay another 2 weeks, and I was, like that Friday at 4:01 when I hopped in the front seat of my mom's Pinto, I was, Mom, can I go next week? Can I go back next week? So I went back, and I did 4 weeks my first summer. And then, at the end of that 4 weeks, I just said to my mother and father, I said, geez, if I could do this again, I'll do it. And I wound up, going then through the entire middle camp, entire upper camp for 4 years. 2 years of CIT, and then I worked there for 6 years. So it was kind of, I stumbled into it having been at Algonquin, and ironically, it led me to attend Rivers. You know, Jim Navoni, you know, I was probably, well, I started at 7th grade at 11 years old. You know, now I think between the repeating kindergarten and changing your birth date and falsifying birth records, kids tend to be a little older. But, you know, that the summer before 6th grade, I remember he said to me, geez, have you ever thought about private school? And I had 4 older brothers and sisters, 1 brother, 3 sisters. And, you know, 1979 was the year I'd be entering middle school. And that was right after Prop 2.5. So there were a lot of cuts. I grew up in Newton. There were a lot of Newton at the time had 6 junior highs, and it was kind of bustling, but they were starting to lose programs, and kind of everybody in and around me in 6th grade was looking at private schools, and I looked at Rivers, and I actually got a Camp B scholarship, and that's kind of how I wound up going. So I was there when I graduated as a senior. I think I'd figured out one year I'd spent about 318 days on the Rivers campus. Yeah, between being a student there and working there and helping out with maintenance and things like that. So I kind of wound up there by accident and wound up having, you know, I would arguably say, you know, some of my best memories from my childhood, probably as much as they revolve around Rivers School, you know, at least half, if not more, are Rivers Day Camp associated. So it really was a great part of my childhood and my young adulthood. I worked there all through college. So it was a part of me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you. I think I first met you, and I think it was probably around 1980. I believe it was. I think it was when we were Seneca Twos. The reason I know that is because I actually have a picture. Actually, I got to show this, man, because it's really kind of cool.
Yeah, he showed this to me before. It's pretty cool.
This is the picture. If you can see, I'm going to point to where you think Jamie is. And wait a minute.
No,
the wrong direction.
Go, right? No,
there he is, right there.
No, you had the white shirt.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Right here. Just get it. I'm backwards, go. So, but this
boy's
is
regular haircut.
That's right. And I don't know if you remember. Do you remember Charlie Slack?
I sure do. Quarterback at Newton North.
Quarterback at Harvard.
I didn't know he played there, but I know he went to Harvard.
Yeah, he went to Harvard. He was like one of the backups. And let me tell you, when you play bombardment versus Charlie Slack, you did not want to have him hit you with the bombardment ball. Because if you did, you had a welt in your leg, on your thigh, or wherever you got hit. It didn't matter. You got hit in the face. It didn't matter back then. You got hit in the thigh. You had that red welt for days. And that thing stung. It hurt.
They were the hard balls. I mean,
they were the regular volleyballs.
Too,
they were the volleyballs. Yeah, the regular white volleyballs.
I know the feeling of being hit with those. Believe me. They
not the leather ones, the hard rubber ones.
Yeah, no, they were around even when I was a camper. And those things did not feel pleasant.
Charlie's other claim to fame was, you know, if you remember, he invented the game Crackabout that we used to play in the wrestling room.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that was bombardment in the wrestling room with everybody on their own team. So you talk about really, you know, getting in some pain there. That was, you know, when you're in a 20 by 20 room and there's no place to hide, it hurt even a little more. So
it was insane. It was absolutely insane. It was fun though, but it was really insane. I mean, we were waiting for those days, right?
I live in Walpole now, and I tell people that my first thought that maybe people outside of Rivers were a little tougher, stronger, bigger. They used to have the Rivers football camp right after camp ended. And the Walpole High School kids and the Brockton High kids were playing Crackabout in the wrestling room with softballs. And it was one of those ones you just kind of open the door and you're like, nah, not for me. You know?
Oh, wow.
I'm going to go get a glass of water, I think. See what those kids from Needham are doing.
I'll stay away from that a little bit.
Wow.
I will tell you, Jamie, what I've known about you is the fact that, and when we first met, you know, I don't really remember those days too much, except for some of the stories, you know, like the G-ball story. And the G-ball story is that we all love G-ball, okay? And Robbie can attest to this too. Anybody that went to Rivers Camp knows that Rivers Day Camp was a sports camp. If you didn't like sports, you were over at the other camp across the way. You were at the fine arts camp, which is not. I'm not complaining about it. It's not a big deal. It's just one of those things where you were across the water, and guess what? If you didn't like the camp, we took you in the motorboat, and we took you over there to meet the director, so you could have that kind of situation. So it's a pure sports camp, and back then when Jamie and I were doing it, and even when Robbie first started as a camper, it was really competitive. I mean, we competed a lot, and we couldn't wait to get out there and do stuff. We couldn't wait to play baseball. We couldn't wait to play tag. By the way, the flag football, it wasn't. It was tackle. It was totally tackle. There was no way that we were playing. And it's interesting because Mark Late and Mark and Paul would walk by, and they were like, I think they came up to the counselors and said, "Is this supposed to be flag football?" And the counselor's like, "Yeah, but they just started. They just started to do it, and we're keeping an eye on them. Everything's good." And they just walk right by. It's all good. See you later.
Good old Mark and Paul.
All I know is that when I first met Jamie, and again, I'm really not trying to suck up. I'm really not, but I'm really trying to tell you exactly how I felt. I played all kinds of sports when I was growing up, but not as much, I don't think, as other kids. And when I look at some of the athletes that we had in our group, and I think we had some tremendous athletes. And when you got up to kick the ball for T-ball, you know what we did? Everybody scattered. We weren't even in the gym. We were outside waiting for the ball. We were on the top of the gym on the balcony. We were waiting for the ball to come to us because there was no way you were kicking it like you were bunting it. First of all, we were bunting anyway. You bunted it, you were getting your butt kicked. So
you're going over to Camp Nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. You're on the motorboat going back over there. But I wanted to ask you, what was one or two of your fondest memories of being there? I know I worked on Saturdays too. My brother Josh worked on Saturdays. Alec, I don't know if you know Alec Orr. Alec Orr, also one of Josh's best friends, also worked on weekends too. I worked sporadically. I was down at the waterfront also, doing some guarding down there too. So what's some of your fondest memories of Rivers?
Well, I think the first one, and you mentioned it was sports. I probably not something to be proud of, but I can remember like every time you draw nature or arts and crafts, you're kind of trying to angle to find a way maybe to not be there, and you definitely didn't want to go to the nurse's office to say you were sick, but you found a way to be up late from swim or kind of drag your toes coming out of lunch. Yes. But I was thinking this on the way, knowing that we would talk, that the thing I remember the most was the Olympics.
Yeah.
Week-long Olympics every year.
Yep.
I can still remember I was on Texaco when we did the year that we did gas stations.
There were different themes every year. Yeah.
And I remember, to have the entire camp, both boys and girls, from the youngest Burdeck boys right through the CITs, all be involved all week long in the standings board. Jimmy Navoni posting the standings boards, every day when you get to camp and you walk in before attendance when the gym was just mayhem. Like that was a really big thing. Like you talk about being competitive, and then it ramped up for that week, and that was incredible. And then I think about the Olympics, and I remember like when you got to be a Seneca, it was you kind of hope to be the pie guy, and that was kind of my goal ever since the time I was playing Blackfoot. I want to be the pie guy in the Friday relay, inside baseball on Friday. The last event starting at 2 would be this campus-long relay, and it would be every single camper, boy and girl in the camp, in some event that ended with this sprint the length of Waterman Field to a table full of pies. And the key was there were 8 pies for the 8 teams, was getting the right pie. And I was lucky enough that Tommy Navoni was in charge of it that year, so I got the lemon meringue. And Doug Stockland, who I wound up going to school with, and we were friends, we played youth hockey with, Doug got the blueberry. So the first thing, with the pie eating, you had to have your hands behind your back, inside baseball. You
Right.
didn't
Yeah.
eat
You
like
couldn't
this.
use your hands. Yeah.
And I had the lemon meringue, which was great because you could kind of just mash your face into it and spread it all over and not have to eat it. And so we got to the pie table all about the same time. And Dougie was a really competitive, good athlete. And so we're neck and neck eating the pie. And he sees I'm starting to smash it all over my face and kind of push it. If you remember, you have someone on the other side of the table holding it for you. And so we're eating it, we're eating. And it's going to be Doug or I. We're going to win this. Either his tribe or my tribe, his team or my team. And he threw up.
Oh!
It kind of just iced the Olympics for my group and my team. But I remember looking, and people started chanting, "Eat it, eat it, eat it." And if I remember correctly, he got sick again because they started yelling to him to eat it.
Yeah, he kept going because he's such a competitor. He didn't care. He's just, I'll just keep going.
It was like blueberry, apple, rhurb, strawberry, and Tommy Navoni slides me a lemon meringue. Talk about inside job. It couldn't have been any better.
I
remember that, and I remember vividly, the overnights. That was kind of like when you're a middle camper, you maybe went to one, and I'll be the first to admit I was a wicked homebody, so I was probably sucking my thumb in the gym hoping to go home. But by the time you got to be an upper camper, a Seneca 1, a Seneca 2, it was like all bets are off. The penny candy store, great, Jim. We'll check that out later. Meanwhile, you're running around, and I think it was the first time in my life I was ever up for 24 hours. And I remember it must have been our Seneca 2 year, the last overnight. We were up causing all sorts of trouble. And we finally fell asleep in the wrestling room, like Friday morning at 7:30.
We all wanted the wrestling room, by the way.
Jimmy
all wanted the wrestling room.
Navoni came in, and they just started blowing the whistle at the top decibel they can. And they're like, "You kept us up running around campus all night. We're keeping you up now." And I just remember it was the first time, 13 years old probably, just being like, this is not worth it. Oh my God. Little did I know come college that you invented a different way, but it was just like, I'll never forget that. And, even going back to like when I was in the middle camp the first years, there was a counselor there named Chris Fletcher. And to get the campers to fall asleep, he stood on the basket that was closest to the varsity locker rooms. And the lights went out, and he stood up there. It was like Mick Jagger. He had a spotlight on him, and he was standing on top of the basket. "It is now time to go to sleep." I was just like, "Oh my word, this place is insane." So it was, as I said, it was really, 40 years ago now, especially with what we're enduring, seems like a millennium. But it was a real simple time. I mean, you got dropped off, you played sports all day, you got hot and sweaty, you swam a couple times. If you couldn't do something, you did it to the best of your ability, and then you went on, and everybody did everything. There was kind of and I joked about the art of the nature, but when it came time, you went and did it, or boating, or whatever it was. Whatever wasn't your favorite, you did, and whatever was your favorite, you did, and everybody did together.
That's right. Absolutely. and I just remember there was one year, I don't know if you remember the Ferrucci's.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, there was one year that they came, it was a penny candy overnight. Those kids came with like $100. I'm like, this is penny candy. I like, you should have seen Jim's face when he saw the Ferrucci's walk in with all his cash in their hand. He's like, what? Would you like me to just bring it to the gym for you in boxes? It's like crazy. They were up all night eating candy, and it was just a thing to do.
It was a simpler time.
Yeah, but you didn't also realize that these overnights were on Thursdays, so that if you didn't get any sleep, you still had to do camp on Friday.
Oh yeah.
You're not going to call your mom and say, "Oh, Mom, I'm tired." Not going to happen. Didn't matter. You had to go in the water. If you were doing basic water safety, you still had to do the basic water safety, which wasn't easy. I mean, you had to do regular camp day on Friday. So, and we got used to it after a while. But I just totally remember the Ferrucci's doing that. I remember there was a Weston policeman who used to go to Rivers. He used to drive in.
Jack Barbetti.
Yeah, is that what it is? Was that what it is?
Chief Barbetti.
He came in with a keg once. He had the keg in the back of his car. He had the keg in the back of his car. He drove in, and we all looked, and we were like, what the heck is that? He said, well, I brought a keg for you guys. Just listen, don't start any trouble. Stay on camp, and don't start any trouble because I'm going to be back here in an hour. I'll check you every hour, but don't mess up because if I mess up, I don't have a problem arresting you guys.
Yeah.
So don't mess it up. I was like,
you know, the other thing I think about camp too was you got to meet, I mean, still people that I'm in touch with to this day, you got to meet people from different towns and you got to, you know, I grew up in Newton, as I said. Now I went to Rivers, so all of a sudden my world expanded. But I joke with even my kids, you know, I thought the world ended at Rivers until I was about 13, and then I met a few friends who, you know, lived in Medfield, and that was, you know, Dover. It was like, you know, where the hell are these places? You know, so it really was. And then the summer camp, though, all of a sudden you meet kids from Wayland or Natick or Wellesley or Needham or wherever, and you kind of was really probably the first ability to really, you know, create your own social identity and grow your network, as they would say today. But it was amazing, like you said, that you know, people you kind of run into 10, 15, 20 years later that, you know, Kerry Daly, the Daly family, you know, they had 4 of them at the camp. Her son worked at Babson hockey camp for 3 years, you know, and she had reached out to me out of the blue. So, I mean, just, it really was, you know, for only being 40 days, we kind of got a lot accomplished in those 40 days.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
It was incredible. I mean, I watched, Robbie knows Andrew Navoni very well. He worked with him. We knew Andrew when he was 4 years old. He was running around with his dad on the field. Yeah. I knew him when he was 4 years old, and all of a sudden I'm working with him as a counselor. I mean, it's just wild. I mean, people spend multiple years there because it was such a great camp.
Well,
you build those, just like you said, build those.
My son's math tutor this past year was Jim Schreider.
Yeah. He was my SAT tutor. I was telling Doug he was my SAT tutor back.
And he's going to be my daughter's too.
I mean, you know, my son came home one day with this letter and he said, Dad, you should open this. And it says, you know, hey, hope Mark will study with me, Jim Schreider. And I was like, you know what? I mean, talk about tying it all together. Jim Schreider was my oldest sister's math teacher in New York.
There you go.
You know, so just crazy.
And he was also our CIT.
Yeah, he sure was.
He was our CIT. There you are,
Jimmy
right there.
Lloyd.
Right in the middle there. Jimmy and Lloyd. Jimmy's on that side and Lloyd's on the other.
Yeah.
That's the crew right there.
It's
Tom Bachner's in there.
Yeah, he sure is. Tom was in my wedding. I mean, that's, you know, so there's a friend from childhood who
I haven't seen Tom in years. Hey, how about Big Al? Big Al. Got Big Al. There's Dougie Stocklin on the bottom there.
Yeah. Stephen Clifford, who wound up being a classmate of mine at Rivers.
Yeah, Steve Clifford. I just saw last year I was at Rivers. We connected again a little bit. He came for a visit, and we just talked for a little while, and it was just wild just catching up with him too. It was just kind of crazy.
Yeah, it really was a good time.
Yeah, it was. It was phenomenal.
Now, Doug, I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So my question is, we were talking about swimming, Jamie, and, you know, one of the things that Doug and I kind of reminisced about talking about Rivers is, you know, even when I was a CIT, we had to swim at one point, I know, across the length of Nonsuch Pond, and Doug was sort of telling me about his sort of memories swimming even longer, even longer around.
Maybe across the lake was nothing.
Even longer around Nonsuch Pond. So I was curious, sort of your memories of not only that sort of particular swim, but there's that, you know, that pond as well, which, you know, definitely has some interesting creatures floating around in it.
Yeah, you know, my eyes were probably really open to it in great depth is when I worked the pre-camp, helped getting ready for the start of camp. So, you know, we used to, you know, Paul Light, God rest his soul, they'd truck in a big dump truck and we'd spread a dump truck full of sand. And that's how the beach got. We put the booms out and we put the docks out. So I kind of knew the ends, and we paint the docks every year and the ladders. And, you know, it was, we've joked, you know, I have 3 children. We've joked with everybody, you know, for us, the 3 things the kids have to do is learn to read, learn to swim, and learn to skate. but that was a big part of it. Like every kid at Rivers Camp swam. Again, whatever their level, if you were a great swimmer or an average swimmer, you were going to do it twice a day. You were going to have lessons in the morning, and the free swim in the afternoon. And again, I wonder where, now it's like if you want to swim, well, you either got to join a swim team or, you have to get, 42 verifications that you can jump in this lake or pool or pond. And I just think about all those things that really, as much as it was summer camp, and I'm sure for my parents, like all the parents, it was kind of, get out of the house here. Don't need you hanging around here, asking what we're going to do. And plus, there were only 3 channels, and you didn't watch anything that was on until after 5 o'clock in the evening, anyhow.
Right.
But there was some structure to it. There were skills that you were developing, whether they were soft or hard skills. That, I'm always kind of amazed that, when you do see somebody and they can't swim, I kind of look at them like, you didn't go to camp take swimming lessons? Like you didn't go, that wasn't a part of your life? But Robbie, I do remember, they used to put out 3 buoys, and it used to be over towards Nonsuch, over towards Algonquin, towards Snooper's house, and then back. And it was, at the time it felt like an absolute, it could have been the English Channel for all. It probably was 150 yards, but it felt like forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of muck on that. There was a lot of muck on the bottom too, because I remember basic water safety during CIT training. We had to go down. And get muck. If we didn't actually get the muck, we had to keep doing it until we got it. And it wasn't just this little tiny bit. We had to actually scoop up and get a handful and bring it up. So I do remember that. And we swam in any kind of weather. It could have been thundering. Like way out, and get your butts in the water. We don't really care. If it was lightning, then we probably got out. But it didn't matter. It got a little cold toward the end of camp too. Last 8 weeks or whatever got a little chilly, and we still went in. It didn't matter. Get in the water.
I mean, it was again. It was there weren't as many cares, and maybe that was bad. Maybe we're overprotective now. Maybe we weren't as protective as we should have been then. But it was,
right.
Play tackle football or gator ball in the rain. I mean, even on a rainy day, you might get one activity inside. That was lunch, but that was it. And you just kind of, you got messy, you got dirty, you sweated, you smiled, and you went home and you rinsed and repeat. And it was. I think a lot of that's lost now, which is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah.
And for a myriad of reasons. I mean, I think, certainly demographics change and people's interests change and what they want to do and how they want to do it. But, it really was. There were a lot of camps like that. We used to, you play Mount Ida in sports when you were a CIT or Camp Chickamee.
My alma mater, Mount Ida College.
Okay. I actually, our baseball coach taught a course there, and I used to help him with one class a year. But there were a lot of those, and now, I mean, I'm not sure you can find a camp, and if you do, it certainly isn't. It's more specific now. Like it isn't broad based. Like even for myself, the Babson hockey camp, we mix in. We actually call it Babson ball. So it's G ball, but it's Babson hockey camp. So the kids think I invented this great game.
That's awesome.
But it's it's hard to find a general day all sports camp. And a couple of the other coaches and I have talked about. Yeah, because they're my age, I'm 52. Wouldn't it be great to have a camp where you just dropped your kid off and you played kickball, you played wiffle ball, you swam, you had lunch, you played dodgeball, you played flag football, you played softball, and went home. And I think we all think it would be great, but I think we also all know that those days are probably gone.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's totally different, and that the kids are treated differently. I mean, you have to change from hard balls to softballs, because of bombardment, because you don't want to hit a kid, and he goes home and tells his mother. And I just asked my mother just recently too. I said, Mom, you sent me to camp for those many years, and she said, I didn't really come home. I may have come home with a welt or, something small, but never got seriously hurt. But I asked her, I said, Mom, did you really care? And she's like, no, it was camp. She's like, I wasn't worried about you being at camp. I knew, she and Linda Schreider worked together as preschool teachers. So they there was a connection there anyway, but still, it's like, I don't care. It's just go and have fun. And if you got hurt, you got hurt. Not a big deal.
It was always amazing Yeah, it was amazing to see like the kids who didn't return. You kind of pick them out the last couple of days the year prior. Like, that guy's not coming back. He doesn't want any more of this, you know. He's good on this.
Exactly. I wanted to ask you whether you had any real feeling or connection with Mark and Paul. I know Mark and Paul were, there's a story where I was, this was after the CIT training. I was already a counselor, and Mark came to visit because Mark is down in Florida now and just kind of hanging out in his retirement. He came to visit, and I was doing boating at the time, and I'm standing there and I'm watching some kids out in the boating. And when we were CITs, and maybe Jamie can attest to this, when we were CITs, we were taught, Lloyd went to Vietnam, and Lloyd, God rest his soul, he's just a wonderful guy. I mean, but he had a lot of issues when he came back. But I remember crawling around in the woods, Jamie. He used to teach us where Mark used to hide, because he said Mark was always watching us. And I want to show you where Mark hid. He hid in that tree over there. He hid in the brush over here. So he actually took us to those places. And he would have us crawl in the grass and in the leaves and in the dirt and kind of crawl. And so we could see what Mark was seeing. So he actually taught us how to almost smell Mark coming when he was coming. So I would stand on the beach, and all of a sudden, Mark comes up behind me. And for some reason, I didn't even hear him coming. I'm standing there, and I'm looking out. He comes up right behind me, and he comes up like really close, right up to my ear. And he says, "Hey, what are you doing?" Like, oh, son of a. And I turn around, and he's standing right there, and I'm like, why didn't I sense that coming? And it drove me nuts. But he was just like cool. Do you have any story or so?
I mean, the lights were incredible to me. I mean, as I said, I worked pre-camp, I worked post-camp, so I spent a lot of time in and around them. Mr. Light was still at Rivers when I attended as a student. Mark Light was a name on the wall. I often joke, when I was a student at Rivers, I used to sit in the Vivoni Lounge, and it's supposed to be in study hall, and I'm just sitting there looking at all the plaques and memorizing all the names. But the lights were exceptional to me. I mean, I think of a few things that like I still to this day do that they just instilled in me. Whenever I pull into a place where there's kids, be it a rink or whatever, I pull in backwards. So when I leave, I can see the kids in front of me. And that was something that, Mark and Paul Light were huge on. From the time you were a camper, you noticed it, and then you became a counselor and you were driving yourself, it was like you back into a spot. The other one is when I walk out of the water with my family, I walk out backwards. And I don't know if you guys remember that, but that was a big thing at the waterfront. You walked out backwards as a counselor.
Yeah.
It's something I still do to this day.
Make sure you got your eyes on your kids.
Yeah.
As they come out.
My father was in the military, so I was bred a little bit this way, but I think Mark and Paul were also very punctual guys, and we have a saying in hockey, there's no such thing as early. And I can remember, whether it be working pre-camp or the regular camp, 8:15 was 8:15, 4 o'clock was 4 o'clock, and there was nowhere in between. So they were exceptional to me. And actually, I went to Mr. Light's, Paul Light's service they had for him at Rivers when he passed. And I stay in touch with Mark, once or twice a year. I hear from him. They were really good to me. At 14, 15, when you're a CIT, but you kind of start to need a little bit of money for them to help me, be able to work pre-camp. And, again, at the time, I think I was making $125 a week. I thought that was all the money in the world. Or work on the Saturdays. And, I look at the way that they ran those Saturday functions. They were probably ahead of their time. They rented out the campus, and companies came in and kind of had bonding at the campus. And, kind of ahead of their time, and just the responsibility that gave you and how you had to kind of earn your way onto the Saturday crew. It wasn't for everybody. And then
that's correct.
You
had to earn it.
Time you maybe got to be a regular, and then all of a sudden when you built that trust, you became their regulars a little bit more. So it was a great relationship. I really cherished my time with the Lights, and they were really good. And they were hard. I mean, they were hard on people. The old Paul Light nickname of the Bear. and certainly, like you said, Mark, but, you know, it was their livelihood, and they wanted the kids to have a great experience. They wanted the camp to be excellent. And so they were demanding. And I think that maybe at 18 or 19 or 20, when you're in college, you don't quite get that. And now, as a father, or for me, coaching my own team or with my own family or having my own camps, it's like, I get it now. You know, they had to be demanding because it's what they did. You know, that was their that was their baby. And you know, it's funny, we were talking before we got on live portion here. You know, I sometimes think about them and you know, how the camp is different. And in a way, it kind of had to break their heart. You know, it kind of had to be a tough challenge for them to really have something that they invested every ounce of their lives into. And things change in society, so I don't blame society for it. But it really, I'm sure the last years were probably hard for them to see the camp more from what it was. And you know, we obviously are talking about the boys' tribes, but I mean, there were some really athletic girls there, and that was really competitive. They weren't just doing arts and crafts, you know.
Oh yeah.
It was really, you know, sweating and smiling and having fun and competing and growing socially and getting to meet other people. And you know, they really built it. And certainly Ed and Jimmy Schreider and Lloyd and Wendy, you know, Lloyd's wife, and you know, Ann Navoni, who ran the waterfront when I started there as a kid, you know, and Louise, you were just scared to death of them. But, you know, all those people, you know, they really kind of created something where people did come back. And you know, I think the lights being at the masthead of it were really the ones who, you know, spawned all these memories. And for me, the opportunity to go to Rivers and work there and create some money and then move on to the next phase of my life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, for me, like, you know, obviously I kind of came into Rivers like when Mark had kind of taken over by the time I came, and Paul was still there as well, and then sort of from Mark into Ed Schreider when I was a counselor. But it definitely, you know, I just think back to, you know, when I was a camper, and I can only imagine, you know, back when you guys were campers. I mean, it just, you know, it definitely changed a ton going from a camper to being, you know, to when I was a CIT to when I was a counselor, especially, you know, those last few years. And it was tough to see because, I mean, there were so many things, you know, and obviously, like you guys said, things change. It happens. You know, there's no fault there, but it's, you know, some of my best memories of Rivers kind of, you know, were not necessarily there for the younger generations when they were coming up as campers. You know, the overnights, you know, kind of went, you know, as budgets got tighter, the overnight started to go away, and just all these different things that, you know, I loved and that you guys loved, you know, during our times there. You know, they didn't get to experience that, which, you know, which was tough for me to see, because that's what made, like you said, what made the camp as great as it was sort of those experiences. And so it was tough to see those go by the board, but it doesn't, yeah, obviously never takes away the memories, which I think is a very important thing. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I just wanted to show you the last picture. This is from 1982. Just really quick. It got you to hold the sign there, Jamie. I don't know. I don't know.
Because I was in school there at that point, you know.
Oh,
so
were
that
you?
was complete favoritism, you know. Certainly, without question. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's me right there.
Nice look with the open shirt. Remember those shirts? Oh, they were something weird.
Yeah, those shirts were just I don't know what the word is for the shirt, but I liked, and actually Robbie commented on the fact that we had our names on the shirt.
Yeah.
And those disappeared. The shirts also disappeared too. We actually had one year where, remember, Robbie, we had Ed changed the shirt to a yellow shirt.
Why still to this day don't know why they
I was like, it was a T-shirt too. It was a T-shirt. It wasn't one of those collared ones.
So when I started, they had the
white ones.
The white ones with the little double
with the little
color
things
in the middle, like the crew type shirt, you know, like a Henley type shirt.
Yeah, I love those. I love those too.
Rivers Red was just like the picturesque, like Rivers camp shirt, you know, and all the way through for me is like, you know, you wanted to become a CIT encounter so you could wear that Rivers Red. So yeah, that was interesting to have to wear yellow for summer, but luckily they brought back at least red T-shirts the next summer. So
yeah, the yellow just didn't work.
No,
It just
no.
didn't go. It just didn't go. I mean,
Not at all.
Ed was taking the card around, and he was looking. He was going, "Wow, these shirts are horrible. These shirts are really bad." So he went back to the red.
I got a
red
good
shirts.
deal on them.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I think that he just wanted to do something a little different. Try to change it up a little bit. But sometimes the traditional stuff really does work. And
The Yankees haven't changed their uniforms as much. I'm not a Yankees fan, but the Yankees, the Dodgers, there's certain things that just fit that don't need. I don't know if timeless
Don't need
is right,
changing.
but it is their identity. It's a part of what you identify it with, and I think those traditions sometimes are lost now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that you had talked about before how Mark and Paul were almost role models, and they were for me too. I mean, they were hard on you, but they were hard on you for a reason. If you, I remember Lloyd taking me out one time. I was fooling around too much. That's just what I did when I was 15 or whatever it was. I was fooling around, and Lloyd actually took me outside. He said, "You know what? You're not going to make it." I was like, "What? What do you mean I'm not going to make? I'm not going to make what? What do you? You're 15 years old. What are you talking about? I'm not going to make what?" And he said, "You're not going to make it in this camp. You're not going to make it as a CIT. You keep fooling around the way you're fooling around. You're not going to make it. You're not going to do it. You're just not going to be at the camp anymore." And I said, "Oh my God." He said, "What I want you to do right now," it was pouring rain outside too, so we were inside and we were just fooling around and whatever. He told me to take off my shoes and socks, and he told me to do. He said do 10 laps around the field, and I said, "All right." So I did my 10 laps. I came back. I was huffing and puffing. I came back. I said, "Okay, Lloyd, I'm done. I promise I won't do it again." He said, "You know what? You're not done yet. Go do another 10." I was like, "What? What is this, camp or corporal punishment? What is going on here?" But you know what? I mean, yeah, he was a hardo, but the fact is that I learned something from that. He was trying to tell me that I could actually be a counselor. I could actually move up, but I can't do that if I keep fooling around the way I'm fooling around. They tried to mold you to move on, to do more. And that is kind of missed out a little today. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of, I know you had mentioned that Mark and Paul were kind of this, kind of like role models and role models in your life, role models in how you coach sometimes. So I wanted to kind of get, kind of segue a little bit into your coaching. You are the head coach at Babson. And kind of wanted to, just ask you, just a blanket statement. Tell us about you as a coach of Babson. Tell us what's going on with you at Babson.
Yeah, I mean, I think I went to Babson, and as I joke all the time, my wife went to Babson too, and I think she looks around and says, "How'd I wind up marrying the only guy who goes to Babson, the best business school in the country, want to be a hockey coach? What did I miss out on?"
That's great.
It does tie back. I mean, I remember, from the time I was in high school that I wanted to coach or teach after graduation. You mentioned Lloyd and Jimmy and Eddie and Jimmy Navone, like they were all teachers, and you didn't know it at the time, like kind of like, what are these people doing in the summer? But that's great to hear with us at camp. So I knew I always wanted to do it. So I was my senior year at Babson. I had an opportunity to go teach and coach at Salisbury or coach at Colby. And my college coach, Steve Stone, is like, "You should give college coaching a shot. I think you'd be good at it." And I spent a year at Colby. 1990, it was a 6-month contract for $4,500, which was really robust. That's not a month or a week. That was total. I think that's when my wife clearly was like, "What did I hitch my wagon to here?" And then I spent a year at Dartmouth, 5 years at Brown, 2 more years back at Dartmouth, 5 years at Northeastern. Now I've been fortunate to be back at Babson for 17 years. 31 years college hockey coach. It's all I've ever done. It's the only way I've ever made a nickel. Sometimes it feels like a penny, but it really, I think, going back to camp, and even I think my persona was, I love sports. I like to play. you know, I just want to be around kids. I wanted to be around that environment. I wanted to have a job where really I loved it so much that it doesn't feel like a job. And I think that's where I've been incredibly fortunate. And now being back at Babson, it's just been an incredible blessing. I mentioned earlier, last night we had our 2013 team that won our league championship. And, you know, to be on the call with those guys, and 23 of them, and to see their faces. I think one of the great things about being a coach is that every kid I coached is always going to be 18 to 22 years old. That's where I see them. You know, Zeke Tester, we mentioned earlier, Robbie, you know, he's a father now, and I still see Zeke at 19 years old. Like, he's forever going to be frozen at 19. I think it's one of the cool things about coaching is that, you know, you're a large part of their lives during their 4 years, but, you know, they move on and they grow up. And I was doing the math this morning, thinking about some of those kids from 2013. Zeke has a child, another kid has a child. You know, they're 28, 29, maybe in that area. And, you know, the kids that I first coached, they're in their late 30s now, approaching 40. And it kind of like blew my mind. I'm like, you know, as I said earlier, I'm 52 and I got the job, I was 36. And I remember at that age thinking 50 was ancient, you know, and now I'm 50 and I'm just looking back at these kids and they're all, you know, they're getting older and having their own families. And I just see them in the locker room at 18, 19 years old. And I think that, you know, I've really been incredibly fortunate, certainly that Babson has given me this opportunity for the last 17 years. Certainly my family to encourage me, my wife and my kids, but even my mother and father, you know, pursue what you want to do. Because again, it wasn't really a traditional route for a Babson graduate. You know, it wasn't, I joke all the time, and I think it's probably the second week I looked around and said, Jesus, not a lot of phys ed classes here, are there? You know, it's just accounting and marketing and management. But even my roommates, you know, they were all really supportive of it. Like, yeah, I think it'd be cool if you did it. And I never imagined I'd wind up back at Babson. That certainly wasn't the plan. It wasn't the blueprint. It wasn't the expected route. But to have wound up back at Babson's just been incredible. And for me now, you know, I got there as a freshman in 86. So I got to know some guys from 83, 84, 85. I left in 90, and I got to know some guys through 93 who were the freshmen when I graduated. I have some personal friends who wound up being there in 96 and 97. So I feel like, you know, I've had about 40 years connection to Babson and Babson hockey realistically. So it's really, it's unique. I'm blessed to really have this connection with a place that I love a lot. It's meant a lot to me and now really been a large part of, you know, the program and the program history to be tied to it in so many different ways.
Yeah, I was going to ask, and you kind of just alluded to it there. You know, obviously, as someone who you played at Babson, and then you went on to different schools and coaching, but to be able to come back to your alma mater for your first head coaching gig, just sort of take us through what that was like. That moment when, you know, again, it's 2004, and you've been offered, you know, your a head coaching job at your alma mater. Just sort of take us through the emotion of that moment when you're like, wow, I get to go back and lead a program that, you know, as you said, is very, very important to you.
Yeah, so it was, I can tell you exactly where I was when they offered me the job. So I was coaching the Mass 16 team out at the USA Hockey National Festival. And the AD at the time who hired me, Frank Modric, said, you know, we're down to 2, it's you and another guy, and the president wants to meet you. And I'm in Rochester, New York, and I'm sitting there saying, well, geez, I'm kind of working for USA Hockey here. I can't. So I drove back. I drove from Rochester Tuesday night and got into our house, you know, probably 1:30, 2 in the morning. We were living in Reading at the time. I met with the president at 8:30 in the morning on Wednesday. And then I got back in the car and I drove to Rochester. And I was on the New York State Thruway just getting off the Rochester exit when the AD called me and said, we'd like to offer you the job. And I said, I'll take it. He's like, do you want to talk to anybody? I said, no, I'll take it. I'll figure out the rest after. And they hadn't even talked salary. Again, there goes the Babson degree, you know, do as I say, not as I do. But I just said, I'll take it. And when it first opened up, you know, initially you're incredibly excited to think, geez, I never thought it would open. And Paul Donato, who I played baseball for, and I wound up coaching his son, is now the Wellesley High coach. You know, he stepped down to spend some more time with his kids who were at the age of 13, 14. And, you know, he was still remained on. He was the rink manager, so it was great for me. So initially, you're like, geez, hopefully I can get this. And then you start to walk yourself down that road mentally. And you think, well, I'm going to get it. And then you realize, well, I might not get it. So To get that call on the New York State Thruway Wednesday afternoon, it was probably about 4 o'clock, was really just an incredible thing. As I said, it wasn't in the master plan. I think with age comes some wisdom, and you start to realize that everybody who ever becomes a coach won't be a head coach. Every vice president won't become a president. Every assistant to the CEO won't become the CEO. Like, there's going to be people who fall in those roles of life of being just underneath the top spot. And I'm really fortunate that there's, when my kids kind of joke with me and give dad a hard time about maybe his hairline or things like that, I just tell them, I'm probably in the most exclusive job in the world. There's only 120 college hockey coaches, and I'm one of them, so I'm better than a doctor and a lawyer, and they kind of shrug at that point. But it's been an incredible honor. And it's really, as I said, it's been neat to be tied to, people from, and now as the head coach, obviously you get involved in the alumni, the people who played in the 60s. We have 2 gentlemen who really kind of restarted the program in the late 50s, who both have passed recently, Bob Mitchell and Roger Miller. But I got to know those guys, and so it's like 1959 to, our incoming freshman, I guess, at class of 2024. That's a long time to be affiliated with a place. So it's nothing I take for granted. I love the place. I love the people. Babson has been way better to me than I can be to it. And I just want to do the best I can. And we've had some exceptional young men play for us. And that's probably what I am most proud of, is that year after year, we churn out teams that have been very successful, but we've churned out some just wonderful young men. And that's kind of tie back, Doug, to like camp. Like, that's probably my part in this whole thing, is to give back to parents a better young man when they drop off, and to instill some discipline, to make them accountable, to push them, and challenge them, to give them a great experience. And it's something that I don't think I'll ever take for granted, but I think it's that's probably really the description of the job. If people hear you're a hockey coach, you coach hockey. And as I found out the first days of COVID, I was deemed non-essential. I've been home off campus since March 13th. So if there's anybody less essential than me, I'd like to find them. But you really, coaching, teaching, family, it's all about the same thing. It's all about the relationships. And I work with a fellow who's helped me professionally, and he's got a great line. And he says, if your presence doesn't make an impact, your absence won't make a difference. And, wow. It's just like that, that's it. Like, that's it. That's what coaching is. That's what teaching is. That's what being a dad is. That's what being a husband is. And I think that's what, long way of answering your question, Robbie. It's been a thrill to be back and just to have the opportunity to be so connected to a place over so long, and hopefully have an impact on these kids is really fulfilling.
Yeah, and obviously, you've had a great run, so far in your career. It's kind of funny that, we were talking offline about P.T. Donato and about Zeke Testa, and, I just, being a Wellesley guy, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that P.T. Donato is the head girls ice hockey coach here in Wellesley now, and actually part of a Donato head coaching duo, with his dad coaching the boys team and his dad who took over when I was a junior in high school. So it's been a little while, but and PT, it's been amazing. His first 4 years as a head coach, he's won 3 straight championships. This year was a share. Obviously, unfortunately, their state title game guy canceled. So I guess I was curious, what is that like for you as a head coach who coached him, and now to see these guys go on to have coaching careers themselves, and in PT's case, again, such success early on. What is that like for you as their former head coach, and just sort of watching them from sort of the outside now to see that success early on?
Yeah, I think that's it ties into to making an impact with your presence. We've got right now 10 kids involved in some form of hockey coaching. A lot of whom are doing it at the private school level or the public school level, or part-time, they're pitching in. But, we've got some graduates who played for me who are involved in hockey and operations, running youth programs. So, I guess it's a real sense of pride for them that they loved it enough that they want to continue it. The last thing I want to do is have anybody graduate who's played for us or played for me and never want to be a part of the game anymore. So that's probably the best thing. And PT's PT and I talk, pretty much every week. I mean, it's really funny, again, a big circle of life. His dad was my assistant in hockey for 2 years, my head baseball coach for 2 years. I have a picture of PT on my lap at 1 year old. So PT's looking at colleges and I tell him I want him. And his final senior meeting, the two of us are just sitting there blubbering, and because it was really 21 years I had known him, 22 years I had known him. And his dad was really, really good to me and really helped me and supported me when he stepped down and decided that he was going to, step away from the grind of college coaching on a daily basis. He really supported me and helped me. And then he ran the rink when I got there. So it's really been a unique time to see PT, whose father was a coach. So his dad gets more credit than I do. But, to see the both of them doing so well and to have so many Babson guys out there coaching. Johnny McGuire, who didn't play for me, he's older than I am, but he's the coach at Waltham High.
Yeah, that's right.
They did a thing in the alumni magazine a couple of years ago. The club coach at Ole Miss is a Babson grad. I mean, there's the coach at Don Bosco, which has had a great program in New Jersey. They were state champs 2 years ago, was a Babson grad. So I joke a lot, and I use it as our hashtag in our hockey tweets. But kind of hockey is our business. We've had a great program for a long time, and again, the fact that kids are graduating and coaching or staying involved in the game makes me feel good probably about what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, that they're not going away like, I'm done with this. I'm done with that bald guy, and I'm done with this.
Yeah, definitely. And sort of and then obviously, I don't want to take away from Doug's questions, but the other.
There's only so much penny candy stories we have.
Yeah, exactly.
We're saving Mr. Bill for the epilogue.
Mr. Bill. Oh my goodness, Mr. Bill.
But
yeah.
The one unique thing that I find about watching D1 college hockey to D3 is the fact that at D3 you guys actually get a chance to host some of your NCAA tournament games. I know over the last few years you've had that opportunity. I know unfortunately you had the opportunity this year, but of course due to circumstances beyond your control, that wasn't able to happen. But I guess my question was more getting a chance to host, basically the most prestigious, tournament, the NCAA tournament. What is that environment like compared to, say, a regular season home game or a conference tournament game, and even just, playing in the NCAA tournament in general? Sort of what is that, like I said, what is that environment like to be a part of that, especially on your home rink?
Yeah, it's the entry to Division III national tournaments in general. It's all a ratio, and it's one entry for every 6.5 teams. So you wind up kind of being the elite of the elite at that point. You've either won your league championship or there's 3 at-large bids, and so it's a really challenging. My first year we were 25-3 and didn't go to the national tournament. So. I was fortunate as a player to be a part of 4 straight national tournament teams. And when I came back, we've had some success doing it. It's, it's like for our kids, hockey's going to end. And we have several players who play professional. We have one who plays in the elite league in Sweden right now, the A-League. But, this is the final stop for all of them in hockey, even if they're going to play for a year or two afterwards. Like this is going to be the pinnacle. And then in your final playing of a game that all these kids have played since they were 5, 6, 7, to reach the national tournament is just an incredible testament to the work they put in, to the dedication. And it really is, we want to win a national title. That's our goal. But at that point, it really is a little bit of house money. It's like you've had a great year. If you've made the national tournament, you've had a great year. And to view it any other way, you're disappointed when you lose, and that's where competitive people play this. But you make the national tournament. Babson's had 17 teams make the national tournament in our 60-plus years. So our kids, as I told them that Friday that we found out we weren't going to be able to play, I said, no one can ever take that away from you. You are amongst the elite of the elite that played. Now, at Babson, we're fortunate we have a national championship team, so they are the they are the, the top of the mountain. But, Division III hockey, 75 odd teams, 78, maybe 80 teams. You're one of 12 still playing is incredible. And then just within our own program to be one of 17 teams that have ever done it, it's a great testament. We've had some great players who've never played in a national tournament. We've had some tremendous players who never won a national championship. So it's really, really hard to win. So I think you just kind of get to appreciate it. And this year was unique, Robbie, because we were knocked out in the quarterfinals. And honestly, we turned our stuff in. Like, we met the Monday after our quarterfinal loss. Said, fellas, great year. Sorry it ended, because we had a fabulous regular season. And I thought we were done. And then the first weekend, ironically, I don't know how I've gotten this way, but we lose in the quarterfinals, and I tell the guys we're done. So the next weekend is the semifinals. My twin daughters play at Ursuline, which were in the same bracket with Wellesley for the Division II.
That's right.
My daughters are 8th graders. We get knocked out. That Saturday at 5 o'clock, my twin daughters play against Winchester at Canton. And PT had played just earlier, so he stayed around for the game.
That's right, yeah.
One of my twins scored the winning goal in overtime. If we had won the week before, I never would have seen that. And as a hockey coach, you miss a lot of your children's events, and a lot of people do. So that Saturday night, you start to see some scores come in. You're like, Jesus, we were, pardon my language, we were in a spot where we had a great regular season. We're really high in the numerical rubric. Because
you guys were number 2, I think, in the NEHC for the regular season.
We were really high in the nation with the metrics that they used to select team. But you lose in the quarterfinals, like, geez, we're a long way away. That first Saturday night, the week of the semifinals, it was most of the league's quarterfinals. It was our league semifinals. And like 6 things went our way. And it was like, So that Sunday, the head of the committee called and said, you guys are still alive, but you need these 5 things to happen. So I told the guys that week, I said, hey, we may be back in. Forget great year and let's have our senior meetings. Let's get ready. So the kids skated a couple times that week, and I said, it's still a long shot, fellas. Friday night, 2 of the 5 things happened. So we go into Saturday needing 3 things to happen, and 2 of them were considerable long shots. One was a visiting team beating a 4-time national. The defending national championship team was Wisconsin Stevens Point. They were hosting another team. So they were the higher seed. They had the better year. Turn on the game, and the Wisconsin Stevens Point goes up 1-0 in the first period. Like, I shut off the computer. And all of a sudden, the phone starts. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Wisconsin Eau Claire goes up 3-1 in the third period. And you're like, this was a long shot. Adrian had to beat St. Norbert. 50-50 game, but St. Norbert's won 8 national titles. Again, the phone. Bzz, bzz, bzz. What the heck is Adrian's winning? So now it's like, geez, 2 of the 3 things fall into play. And so it came down the final day of Trinity was playing Wesleyan. We were under the assumption we needed Trinity to win. Guy calls me before the game, says, regardless of what happens, you're in. I said, excuse me? You're in. He says, this game doesn't matter. And I said, well, until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. And he started sending me these calculations that he runs on his computer. And he's like, no, these are how the numbers are going to come out. And I called the guys. I said, to make sure, we probably want Trinity to win, but I think we're in. And then, Sunday night I go to bed, and our selection call is Monday morning.
Right.
And we found out officially Monday, and we started practice. We practiced Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday night, things had started to get a little challenging in the world. And that was the night that, Mark Cuban got the text on the court. And I remember watching it live, and went to the rink Thursday. And we skated at 1:30. And I told the guys before, I said, fellas, I don't know this for a fact. Earlier in the week, Robbie, they had said that, we'll probably have to play without fans. We're not quite sure, but this is how it's going to look.
Yeah.
And before we had gotten official word, I said to the guys before practice, fellas, there's no way we're going to play. If you see what happened in the NBA last night,
Right.
While that's going on, I'm eating my lunch at 12 o'clock. The Big East tournament, if you remember, was still going on.
Yeah.
But the ACC canceled their tournament.
Right.
And then about 12:48, 1 o'clock, the guys start coming in the locker room. Duke and Kansas say they're not going to play in the NCAA tournament. And I said to the guys, hey, I don't know what's going to happen, you know, but I would put our chances of playing at 1 in 1,000. So we won't practice today. Go out and have fun. If we have to practice tomorrow because we are playing, we're going to be fine. We'll be ready. And it's funny because it was probably our best week of practice all year. I really think we would have had a deep run. I believe we could have had a deep run. But it wasn't to be. And obviously there's things a lot more pressing. You know, when you look at the fact the NHL and the NBA and Major League Baseball and NASCAR, everyone's having trouble getting going. You start to realize, you know, 115 days ago, it seemed like kind of a silly thing. And now you realize what it's really all about and how difficult it is. And, you know, you kind of appreciate it. So at the end of the day, I think I'm really proud of this team that we had this past year. And the fact that they're one of 17 teams in the history of our college to be a national tournament team is a great accomplishment to them.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. Definitely.
It was crazy though. It was wild. I mean, to be out and then be in, and then to be in and be out, you know, not playing, not anybody playing. I mean, Wesleyan, who we were going to play, was one of the first schools. Their school said on Wednesday that they were not going to allow any off-campus travel. So I was talking to the coach, like they were probably going to give them a waiver for this game. And then you start to hear like, well, what about next weekend? And it was crazy how, you know, I guess for our parents' generation, my parents are older, are deceased, but we're both older. You know, the JFK assassination. I remember being where I was with the Challenger explosion. When Reagan was shot, I was actually at Rivers playing football.
9/11 for me.
Yeah,
for
9/11.
my generation.
Yeah,
so
9/11 for sure. You know, 9/11 actually, my son is named for a passenger on that, so it's got a really personal meaning.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
But it was a crazy. It was like a 12 hours that seemed like you were trying to predict 2 weeks. That on Friday at noon, you know, we go from Wednesday, no fans, Thursday, me thinking we're not going to play, to Friday at noon, our AD saying everyone has to be off campus by 6 tonight. And it's like, you know, where did this come from? I thought it was, you know, a flu and maybe we won't have to, you know, we won't shake hands after the game. Like that was the one thing the NCAA said, you know, we'll leave protocol to you. Maybe we shouldn't shake hands to Friday. Get out, get home. You know, it was like the scene in Monsters Inc. with the sockets on the back. They pull the curtain up and start scrubbing it down with a brush.
Oh yeah, well, because I know, you know, we were talking about PT. I know the Wellesley girls found out on Thursday that they weren't going to be able to play their state championship game. It went from, you know, they had just played their semifinal like that previous Sunday to all of a sudden like a week later, it's like everything shut down. It definitely just shows you just, you know, how, you know, things with this or just with anything can sort of change in the blink of an eye. And as we've been learning, you know, things could change by the day. So
yeah, absolutely. So I only have a couple questions for you, Jamie. I just wanted to get an idea of your if you can give us an idea of your coaching style. I think we kind of have an idea a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I mean, old school. Who did you kind of learn this from? Did you develop this yourself? Obviously, it sounds like you have a lot of motivation there too, which is really great. Just wanted to get an idea of your style, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, the list is incredibly long of people I really, you know, probably begged, borrowed, and stealed from. You know, I would say certainly, you know, one guy that was really influential in kind of how he treated us and did things was Joe Finnegan, who was my high school coach at Rivers. And then I played for a guy named Jeff Kozak at Hotchkiss, who was really, you know, he played at Dartmouth and, you know, it kind of blew my mind. Joe Finnegan was a tough guy who was a hockey coach via football, who was a people person who really understood motivation. And then, you know, Jeff Kozak was like a hockey savant. And then I got to Babson and played for Steve Sterling. And I felt like, geez, the last 5 years, it was like a hockey PhD. You know, but as far as my purest coaching style, where I probably evolved from, is a guy named Bob Godet, who just actually retired as the Dartmouth coach. So I worked with Bob for 7 years. I started with him in '92 at Brown, and right up through, I went to Northeastern in '99. You know, I was 23 years old when I was an assistant on his staff. I'd already coached at Colby and Dartmouth for a year, but he's the first guy that really kind of molded me. And I think my style, I would say we're firm but fair. You know, we have high expectations for our guys, and we're demanding, but it should be fun. It's a game. You know, our practices, I think if some people walked in, they'd wonder what the heck we're doing. It doesn't look as organized or systematic as other people. You know, I'm a passionate coach, I would say. Like, this matters to me. It matters a lot. It's all I do. You know, I coach hockey, and I'm a dad and a husband. You know, and I think certainly for me being at Babson, I've said this often, Doug, how I do what I do, I'm not sure if it could work at another school. It works at Babson because I have such, you know, it's in my blood, you know, and I walked the same hallways. I went to the same dormitories, the dining hall. I played the same opponents. I sat in the same locker room. It really matters to me. So, you know, the passion piece of it, I think a lot of our players or former players would probably say, yeah, he's maybe sometimes a little too passionate, but you know, they had a few stories on our Zoom call last night that you kind of forget about or choose to selectively forget. But I would say, you know, our team, what my goal is if you walked into the rink and saw Babson play, you'd say they're really hard to play against, they're really competitive, and they don't beat themselves. So I think everything from me stems from that kind of end point and how we're going to do things. And we're really disciplined. We were the least penalized team in the country this year. We've now been that 3 of the last 4 years.
Wow.
But again, I think we're really hard to play against. I don't think anybody comes and plays us and says, oh, this is a night off, you know. Don't worry about putting on the equipment, fellas. No, so I think discipline is a big part of my personal belief and how it relates to accountability to yourself and to your teammates. But I want, I guess the simplest way to summarize my style is how the kids we have. We get great kids from great families who happen to be really good at hockey. And that's a pretty good jumping off point. And then from there, we give them a little structure, a little discipline. Certainly we have some things, you know, we like to do or don't want people to do. But I think, you know, if we get a lot of kids who are willing to completely buy into the team is greater than the individual in every aspect. You know, you mentioned Zeke earlier, Robbie. I mean, he was a senior captain, and he had a really good 3 years. And I sat him for, I think, 9 straight games. You know, in a 25-game college season, that's a pretty big stretch. He was a captain. He was a senior. He was an all-league goalie. And we had this freshman, Jamie Murray, who wound up being the National Player of the Year when he was a senior. But Zeke, you know, he took it. He was the biggest cheerleader. He was the best teammate. And so I think that's what we always fall back on, is that our culture, our environment, our program is really about us. And it's about us right now keeping the flame going. You know, we hold the torch. It's not our program. Babson had good hockey before I got there. They won a national championship. They'll have good hockey after I leave. So it's our job to do the best we can every day to keep the program at the highest level. You know, I am demanding, though. Firm but fair, I like to say. My wife says sometimes, reminds me that I'm not in the locker room when I come home and I want things a certain way. And why is this over here? My son does a great impersonation where he opens the trash barrel and says, why is there trash in the trash barrel? And I get it. But I think I know our guys have a lot of fun and they have a lot of passion for the program.
It sounds like you completely connected there. And that's part of your style is having that connection and having that passion that goes along with it, because you've been doing it so long. But it sounds like you really have that connection to Babson, connection to your club itself, to the players.
Yeah, it's quite, you know, I think being a coach, you have to appreciate and understand that these people are entrusting their sons with you. I say sons because I coach men's varsity ice hockey, but you know, it's a big deal. Like, they're dropping their son off with you, and they're going to have professors and friends. But at the end of the day, a lot of their experience is going to evolve around the hockey program and the hockey team and how I treat them. And, you know, the last thing I'd want to do is have a parent after 4 years say, this was the worst thing we ever did. You know, this was a little like you said with your mom with camp, you know, yeah, no, I'm not worried. You're in a good place. Go have fun.
Right.
And so I think that is something that, as certainly as I've become a parent, has probably become even more clear. And that did start with Bob Gaudette. You know, he was the first coach I ever really coached with or played for that I didn't play for him, but, you know, that really had that connection. I'm like, geez, this is pretty good. And so that definitely spurned off on me. And then having kids of my own, it's like, what would I want for my own kids, you know? And I think you can be firm and demanding and make sure people are on time or whatever it is, but it isn't 1960 either. And you need to be cognizant of that and understanding that fine line. But I also think most of the people, like, I'm not for everyone and everyone's not for me, you know? And I think kind of knowing yourself in any endeavor in life, whether you be a teacher, a coach, a CEO, a garbage man, you know, if you're in tune with who you are and what you are and you're true to that, then I think people accept it. You know, I think that's the biggest thing that people will accept is like, you know, you say about so-and-so, that's who he is. That's what he stands for. And if you model that behavior all the time, then I think people, again, if they're interested in that, will gravitate towards it.
Yeah, that's totally. Yeah.
There's other people that do it a different way, you know, and they gravitate towards that. And that's fine.
Right.
There's no right or wrong way to coach or to parent or to do anything. You do the best you can, but I think at the end of the day, if you can just be true to yourself, and that's at the end of the day, all I try to do, you know, a little like Popeye, you know, without the muscles. I get the same haircut as he does, but without the muscles, I am what I am, and that's what right. I try to be.
No, that's great. That's awesome. That's really terrific. I wanted to just kind of get an idea of this is kind of a little off of the college game a little bit, but and more to your personal kind of thoughts. Who was your favorite Bruins player, past and present? I know it's hard because there's a lot.
Well, I'll admit right off the get-go that I did not grow up a Bruins fan or a pro hockey fan. I only saw one Bruins game until I was 16 years old. Obviously, the odd ones on TV. I grew up a college hockey fan. I grew up going to BU games. You know, I was at every BU home game until I went away to Hotchkiss as a PG. I just loved it. So I wasn't quite in tune. I mean, obviously, born in 1967, Robert Gordon, that guy was pretty big part of my, you know, childhood, knowing who he was. Again, not watching the Bruins all the time. I wasn't, you know, in front of it like my son watches the Patriots. But, you know, Bobby Orr, you know, I think watching the team today, again, it's so different for me. I'm not trying to evade your answer. I watch hockey for the game. Like, I don't watch it for the play. Like, I'm not a fan. I love hockey, but I'm not a Bruins fan, and I don't mean any disrespect to them. I love the game. You know, I think Bergeron is certainly embodies everything you could want. I mean, he's all day tough. He's a great leader. You know, he's a man of few words that really lets his actions speak for themselves. The things we talk about at Babson, Patrice Bergeron is he's reliable and dependable, and he's accountable. You know, I think those three things really stick out for me. But again, I'm more of a hockey. You know, I love Jonathan Toews. He's one of my favorites. You know, I think he's an incredible winner, an incredible leader. You know, I love Crosby. Like, I love the game so much that I tend to look at who are the people that are successful and why, and that's where I kind of get drawn to, as opposed to, you know, go Bruins. Yeah, Chara, you bums. He's way better than anybody else. Oh, Tuca, you know. So
right.
I'm happy when they win because it's great for hockey locally, but I really do, you know, I delve more into probably and observe it more. The only thing I relate to is, like, if a carpenter came to my house, he would probably walk around and see things in the house. No, I wouldn't have put a door there or that knob or whatever. And so when I watch hockey, I really see it like, okay, why is this team successful? Why is this player successful? What are they doing? How do they do it? And then I try to search and read and check out and learn more about it. So I'll go with Bergeron, certainly, or even though I wasn't watching the Bruins all the time, not that you could get them that often. WSBK, Channel 38, Saturday afternoon on the.
That's right.
For you youngsters out there on this podcast tonight, there used to only be 5 channels available to us.
That's right.
You know,
that's right.
Bobby Orr and Bergeron, but they've, you know, I'm probably more a fan of coaches. I love what Bruce Cassidy's done. I am an absolute Belichick, you know, admirer, worshiper. We're fortunate, you know, right in town. Brad Stevens lives right in town. He's very friendly with our basketball coach. I mean, we're in a great area. Our baseball coach throws BP for the Red Sox. So, I mean, like, you know, forget our kids have been spoiled. Like, for me as a coach to be the last 20 years coaching professionally and have the Patriots and the Bruins having the success and the Celtics And the Red Sox, I mean, I've been immersed in 2 decades now of incredible sports success, which is my livelihood. So it's kind of been a great thing for me.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's funny. It's funny you bring that up because one of the things I was curious about, I wanted to ask you about is, obviously the Bruins last year had quite the playoff run, obviously going all the way to the Cup Finals. And what I was kind of curious about is, being a hockey coach, sort of when you watch that run and sort of the, playoff games from sort of I was just curious sort of your coach's perspective on just sort of what makes a team like that, able that people really don't maybe necessarily expect a run like they had last year, but they're able to sort of get hot at the right time. From a coach's perspective, what do you sort of see when you look at a team like that says I can see why such and such a team like the Bruins were able to do what they did.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly talent plays a huge part in any athletic team success. Like you can't win with you can't win the Kentucky Derby riding a donkey. So you got to have good players. you got to have the good athletes. But
Great analogy.
I think really when you look at a team, it's a little like the old iceberg in the water. What you see is the 10, 20% above the water, and that's the talent. And I think, what the Bruins had last year, my guess would be incredible chemistry, incredible camaraderie, which I think is different than chemistry. Chemistry being kind of how they all get together, but the camaraderie being really how much they love one another, how much they care for one another. Excuse me. And then when you win, you start to feel it a little bit. Then you get, it's not luck. I'm not sure it's mojo, but you kind of, good teams can get on a roll, and when you get on a roll, you tend to stay on one, the same way bad teams can. And so I think, to me, I think the coaches, the word I would use, they probably primed their team to be playing their best at that point. They just had them primed. They had them at the spot where they were ready to jump off. And then you win a series, and now you're down to 8 teams, and you start to feel better about yourself. And now you've got a little mojo. And certainly, as I said, they have great talent. They got very good goaltending. But the intangibles, that team seems to like one another. I don't know if anybody else gets that sense, but when you hear them talk, when you see things, the hair, the buzz off that they do, I think Bergeron does the ping pong, the paddles or something.
With 98.5,
Yeah. They seem to really enjoy one another. And in pro sports, remember, that's a little harder than college or high school because they're all going, Bergeron might have 2 kids, and this guy's an 18-year-old rookie, and this guy lives in Linfield, and this guy lives in Needham, and this guy lives in an apartment downtown, and he's 25 and single, and he's a millionaire. I mean, but they really seem to enjoy one another. They seem to enjoy being around one another. They seem to really believe in one another. And I think those intangibles probably were a big part of why they had a good run.
Yeah, I was kind of curious, because I'm a big baseball guy, and obviously Fenway Park has been a big part of my life growing up. Going to Red Sox games and stuff like that. But I know you and your team actually have had a couple of opportunities to play some outdoor games at Fenway. So what was that? What were those experiences like?
The yin and yang of life. It is the most incredible opportunity Babson's had. We're the only Division III team that's played in all 3 frozen Fenways that they've had Division III college games. We're also 0-3, so I think the next time they call, we're gonna just, we're out of town. We're gonna decline that. No, it's. I joked. Might have been the last.
Edit that right out.
Yeah,
just edit that out.
It is what it is. I joked when I was a kid. I dreamed of playing shortstop for the Red Sox. Like that part, I joked with. We were doing an interview. Like that part wasn't a joke. That was my dream. I wanted to be the shortstop on the Red Sox when I was 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. And I got to play in Fenway. It just wasn't baseball. It was hockey. It really, each time is so different. It's really unique. I mean, the first time we played Norwich, a big rival, it was like a perfect night. It was cold and brisk, and you had no snow. That's the only thing we've missed in our 3 times, but it was perfect. The second time we played Norwich again was one of those ones we weren't sure it was going to go off. It was a little warm, and and then it froze up nice. And the last time we played UMass Boston, it was warm. I mean, you couldn't have been out there in short sleeves. So each one's been unique, but I guess, again, I go back to our players. You know, it really is, if you scroll on some of their Twitters, a lot of them still have those pictures as their avatar or their background of Fenway Park. And the really neat thing we've done, because it's a challenge, because when you play the game, we have 27 players on our roster, only 22 dress. So you have 5 kids who aren't really getting the Fenway experience. Like, the Fenway experience is nice. It's a lot different being on the field than it is in the stands. You know, it's a lot different being on the ice.
Right.
But we've had a practice every year we played there. And so I've got some great pictures, team photos with the green monster in the background of one in Fenway Park, you know, the kind of iconic press box now, you know, in the background with the flag. So it's really been incredible. We've been incredibly fortunate, thanks to Sam Kennedy, who really has been the one who's, you know, invited us every time. You know, the first year my son was on the bench with us, which was kind of neat. He came home from that and said, "Jim, Mom, Dad swears a lot." Yeah. He was only 9. He didn't get what happens in the locker room stays in the locker room at that point. You know? But it's been really unique and a lot of fun. And you know, certainly with what we're dealing with now, who knows if there'll be hockey at Fenway again? You know, who knows what goes on in the world? And we've done it 3 times, and we've got, you know, you're talking about probably 40 to 45 kids who've had that experience, which is really unique and a great thing. And their families, and, you know, even the exposure for Babson and just being able to do that.
I can only imagine. I mean, I know I went to one of the frozen Fenways. I think it was UNH Maine or something like that. And it's pretty wild, even just being in the stands, going like seeing Fenway a whole another light. So I can only imagine what it was like, you know, being right out there out there on the ice for it.
And you know, one year we dressed in the Red Sox locker room. I mean, so one year we dressed in what their batting cages, and the other year we dressed in the visiting side. I mean, so we literally had the whole experience where we are, you know, walking right down, you know, right where Big Pappy is. And we got, you know, again, kids have unbelievable pictures of them on the bench, you know, the Red Sox bench or in the dugout, and pictures in front of the green monster. And it's wild. You know, there was a picture I just put together for some kids the other day, and you know, you've got the green monster with Babson and I think UMass Boston on the scoreboard in the background, you know, and I'm standing on the bench, and it's like, you know, I certainly wasn't something I imagined in 1978 when I thought I was going to be the next Rick Burleson and play alongside Fred Lynn, but it's been really neat.
So the last question from my side, at least, is obviously, you know, the Babson athletic department just in general has had so many successful teams over the years. You know, you talk about baseball with Matt Noon, you know, has done a great job. And, you know, even, you know, the basketball program, I know, you know, won a national championship just three years ago. So just what is it like? I mean, you know, you talk about the hockey program, but just what's it like to be part of an athletic department in general that's had so much success, you know, across the board, you know, league titles, national titles, you know, just really guys that have gotten to do such great things. What's it sort of like to be part of that sort of culture in general?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, first and foremost, the school supports athletics. I mean, at the Division III level, if the college, the admissions, the president, the athletic director, if they're not supportive of it, you won't be successful. So we've had great leadership across, you know, several athletic directors, a few dean of admissions, a couple presidents. They've all been really supportive. I think the first thing you notice is that, you know, we don't have to apologize for being a great school. And so we attract really good kids. You know, like we're already on a good path because we're attractive to good families who want their children to get a great education. So we're attractive to really competitive, driven young men and women who happen to be good athletes. We've got some fantastic coaches, you know, who really are either long time at Babson, our men's soccer, our women's basketball, our men's basketball, you know, are all in the 30 years being coach at Babson. You know, our baseball coach, our swimming coach, our track and field coach, you know, up over at 19, 20 years now in that area. You know, I'm at 17. Our women's field hockey coach, I think, is at 12 now. So it's a place people have stayed. And I think the other nice piece of it, there's no jealousy. You know, I think genuinely everybody is happy for everybody else. We all have friends in sports we like or don't like more. I mean, that's not, but there's never any sense in the athletic department. I think it starts with the director of athletics, where you're saying, okay, hockey gets everything and these guys don't. Like, we all have what we need to be successful. And I think that fosters a great environment where we as staff, coaches, are not keeping a half an eye on, what the basketball team gets. We get that. What did they get? Do we have that? We all have everything we need to win. We've got fabulous facilities, great kids, great uniforms, great support from our alumni. So it's a really fun time to be at BAPS and be a part of the athletic department.
Oh, definitely. I can imagine. Like I said, basketball, just winning, Matt Noon, baseball, they always seem to make, you guys and your success over the years. I mean, it definitely, being from Wellesley, I always, find myself sort of venturing over to various games and stuff like whether it be hockey, basketball, baseball, whatever the case may be. So it's.
I think it's a really unique place too, in that we are good in a lot of things. Like, a lot of teams have been in the national tournament in the last 5 years, and it'd be one thing to say, oh, I wish I played football at Ohio State, but sometimes that spotlight, it's like being a Red Sox or a Bruin. Like, okay, you're the big show in town, or a Patriot. Look at what Tom Brady's been through. As much as you think I'd like to be the show, you also sometimes appreciate the fact that it's spread out, that everyone can have their own chance for success and be really successful. And again, at the end of the day, the kids in the school, the kids we get, the support of the school, and some really great coaches have made it a lot of fun.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really great. So at this point in our show, we typically, what we do is we kind of have almost like a last call.
Yeah.
A final thought, so to speak. So, I mean, if you'd like to give one, Jamie, you can, but I know Robbie and I I know I have one, so I'm sure Robbie probably has one too. The insights have been really fabulous. So basically, I'm going to go first. Robbie, actually, why don't you go first, Robbie?
All right,
what's your final thought?
No, my final thought was this, and like Doug said, Jamie, thank you so much for being on. We very much appreciate it. My final thought is, being a baseball guy, like I said, to hear that, I'm being cautiously excited about the MLB coming back. I will believe it when I actually see them stepping out on the field for those first games. But to actually hear yesterday that they've actually maybe even somewhat agreed on things and are actually taking those steps was at least a bright light. Yeah, I know. Like I said, I'm being cautiously optimistic here, but just for me, to at least have that hope that baseball and just all these other sports, in the next couple of months could be coming back. Obviously, it's an ever-evolving situation, and
hockey's coming back first, man. I'm just telling you right now.
Hey, you know what? I'll take anything at this point.
I'll tell you.
Really,
we had the conversation last week.
I love it all. I know. I love it all.
We had the conversation last week, Robbie, and we already said that hockey's doing so much better job of just kind of relaxing with it and trying to take it, one day at a time, one step at a time, trying to figure out when they can come back, how they can do things, protocols, all that kind of stuff. So I think hockey's doing a much better deal.
Oh yeah. Oh, without a doubt. I just really hope that they can actually get back on the fields or the ice and stuff like that, and really get back to some amount of live sports. But again, just nothing is definitive, right now of what's going on. So
just one sports pack.
Yeah, we really.
If I watch one more NASCAR thing, I think I'm gonna move to Tennessee. I can't do it anymore. I just can't, and I gotta stay up late to watch baseball. I gotta watch Filipino Korean baseball league. Korean baseball league at 4:30 in the morning. I'm like
ESPN. Yeah, there you go.
Kindergarten or whatever it is.
Yeah, right. Why am I doing this? Why am I you know what? I just go to PS. I got sports back. It's much better than watching Korean baseball. So, it's just what it is.
No, that's sort of just what I have. Again, just some cautious optimism there for me with MLB news. So, Doug, back to you, Doug.
All right. Sounds good. Jamie, do you have anything, any last words?
I mean, I guess that, first of all, thank you very much for having me on. It's, it's humbling anytime somebody thinks that I've something of any value to add. So I appreciate that. As you said, when Babson determined I was non-essential March 13th, that was kind of a low point. So this has been good. This has picked me up a little bit.
Good.
I would just say that, I was probably like most kids, I just loved sports, every form. And as you said, I wasn't a Bruins fan. I wasn't even really a Red Sox. I just love sports. I love playing, I love doing. And for anybody who is listening who has kids, I know with 3 kids of my own that sports can be a real grind as a parent. That youth sports can be a real challenge, and it's still worth it. That sports are a great part of life, and you don't have to be a superstar. You don't have to be an all-star. You don't have to play on the intergalactic Neptune, AAA squad. Just playing sports for sports' sake has great value still, and I think. Don't get caught up in the morass of what team Joey or Susie did or didn't make, or what team Tommy got cut from or didn't get selected from. If you really can take the time to just say, hey, it's a great opportunity for my child to grow, to learn about themselves, to be challenged, to be competitive, to learn some things about themselves. And with that, I would also just add, we talked about camp earlier. There's a great book out, The Blessing of a Skin Knee, and let the kids, let them fall, let them fail. And I'm a parent too, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody, but coming home with a welt from a volleyball, you don't have to call the DA there, you don't have to call the Attorney General. We don't need an investigation. And the kids are more resilient than we think, and I think we, especially coming off of what we're coming off of right now, I know from my 3 kids, two rising 9th graders and a rising senior, this has been really hard on them. This is a greater challenge on them than it is on us. Waiting in line at Trader Joe's is not that big a deal. Imagine not being able to see your friends for 4 months. And when you do, you have to go, you're like, boom, or you have to be 6 feet from them, and you're trying to figure out what 6 feet is. Get your kids involved in things that they love. Let them love it for themselves and sit back and enjoy it.
Oh, definitely.
Great thoughts. We should have this guy on every week.
I know.
This guy's great. That's great thoughts. Great thoughts.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because that was a lot of the thoughts of like, kind of a long time ago, and now everybody is like, I know some parents who are very kind of set in their ways and like, oh, my kid has to be, the captain of the team, and he's got to be this, and he's got to be that, and they put so much pressure on kids these days, and sometimes it's almost better to play hockey or football or baseball or soccer. It doesn't matter what it is, just for the love of the game. And I think that's not my final thought. It's just kind of piggybacking off your thought, but I think that's huge thoughts. My thought process is that everybody that's listening out there, get yourself to Babson because this guy's awesome. Get yourself to Babson and you're going to have a great experience. My final thought is that this is from College Hockey News. Actually, Jamie, you probably already know this, maybe you don't, or maybe you do, but it's as of June 1st, 2020. That's when the article date is. I thought I'd just throw a College Hockey News thing in there. It turns out that Dartmouth actually names their new head coach, Reed Cashman. Is the new head coach taking over from Bob Gaudette.
Yep.
Reed Cashman played for the Washington Capitals for a little while. He's going to be the new head coach over at Dartmouth. I guess he went to Quinnipiac, I guess.
Quinnipiac.
Yeah. So I just All right, look it up. He's 36 years old, and I don't know what Jamie, what your thoughts? I don't know if you read at all, or if you've heard
I
what's
know
going on.
I know in passing. I mean, I'm very close with Bob Ritter, as I mentioned, who retired, and so my connection to that whole story was through Bob's retirement and just how much he meant to me. And I've shared this maybe once before, but when I won my first game at Bath, and he means enough to me that I sent him the game puck. It's first college goal, first college win. A lot of times, that person gets it. So when I got that puck, I just wrote him a note, said, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I dropped it in the mail and I sent to him. And when he retired, we were talking. It's like, I'm sitting here and the last thing I'm packing in my office is the puck. He says, I've had that on my desk ever since you sent it to me with the note. So Reed will do a great job. He certainly is a bright hockey person, has great experiences, and enjoyed great success everywhere he's been. So I wish him nothing but the best. But for me, it was a little bit melancholy because, not seeing Coach G, as I call him, around, and, not being in the rinks with him and what have you, and not even calling on a Monday and saying, hey, I saw you won, congrats, or how'd the game go? That's my portion of the story that, I'm gonna miss. I have a great friend and a great mentor who means a lot to me, who I still talk to, but we'll be talking more about Babson hockey now than Dartmouth hockey, I have a feeling.
Right, exactly. But yeah, no, again, Jamie, that was my final thought for the evening. Jamie, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
We totally appreciate it. Love talking about the old Rivers days and exceptional Babson hockey talk.
I like the pictures because it proves that this is like a lost generation, a lost civilization. This was once a proud, thick.
I still got a little. This
was once a proud civilization of hair. That if you look at those pictures, can you throw up that one from CIT2 again? Because
definitely. You got a lot of hair in this one, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was rocking it. Look at that. I was like the fifth Beatle.
There it is. Yeah, get a little close up of that right there. There it is. Right there. Yeah. That's great.
And now this is Mr. Clean.
That's right.
I know God has a sense of humor because what he's left behind is now going gray on the sides. So that's joke on me. So
it just shows experience, man. Not age. It's experience. It's experience.
Again, thank you so much for having me on. And
absolutely. Hey, listen.
I was going to say that the one thing about COVID for all of us, this crazy virus, is I do think it has allowed a lot of us to maybe forcibly slow down, but even more so kind of reach back. I think a lot of us have spent time connecting with people from our past, like you and I, Doug, who, geez, you're talking 1983, 84. It's hard to believe it's almost 40 years, but
1982.
I think it is there's two sides to every coin, and for every good there's a bad, and for every up there's a down. And I think for me to be able to do this tonight and talk about Rivers and think about things that honestly I hadn't thought about in a long time, it brought a smile to my face. And
that's great.
I do appreciate. I said I'm humbled. I'm just what I am, and I appreciate being on tonight.
Absolutely, and again, so we thank you very much, and again, it was great talking to you, and I hope you keep in touch with us. And we'd certainly love to have you on, especially when your season starts again. I know you won't have a lot of time once that happens.
I have more time. Then I'm less busy. I just get away at that point.
Exactly. But we'd love to have you on again sometime in the future. We could talk more River stuff and definitely get into more Babson hockey, because we're starting to get into more of the college stuff, and we'd certainly like to do that. But again, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
Be well. Hope your family's well, and let's connect really soon so we can maybe we'll get together down the road.
Maybe we can do it within 6 feet.
Yeah, maybe we can do it within 6 feet, definitely. Yeah. But again, thank you so much, Jamie. Guys, watch this episode. This is an awesome episode. I know it's a little bit on the long side, but you'll love every minute of it. It's awesome. We are the Sports Blitz. If you have any ideas, any show ideas, please don't hesitate to throw us we're on all the social media, most of them anyway. We're on Twitter, Robbie. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on
YouTube. We're on
YouTube now.
everywhere.
We're definitely there.
SoundCloud, everywhere. You know.
Well, give it
You
to us
name it.
again. What's the Twitter handle? Let's get this.
What's the Twitter?
Yeah, so at rjohn390 is where you can find us on Twitter, SoundCloud. Just search the Sports Blitz. I mean,
YouTube, same thing. Just Sports Blitz.
Yeah. So I mean, literally, you can find us all over, and
we got to find whoever has the Sports Blitz Twitter handle and take them out then.
Oh yeah, we definitely have to do that, Jamie. Definitely. But again, thank you so much, Jamie.
Yeah.
Again, be well. I hope your family's well, and it's interesting how we have that little connection with Miss Carney, which is great, which
crazy.
is awesome, and that's fabulous. So again, thank you so much for being. Hey, it's Doug and Robbie and Jamie for the Sports Blitz. Thank you so much for having us, and we'll see you real soon.
See everybody.